Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video concerning enrichment, because as you may or may not know, we have a currently running event, Triumph of the Winner Special, in which it gives you bonuses and discounts from May 8th to May 11th. Through these discounts, you have discounts on buying for experience, discount on premium times, on researchable vehicle purchase, premiums, etc, etc. In total, a lot of discounts, but the main concern of this video here is the discounts on enrichment. 50% off on temporary and 30% on permanent. So I'm gonna divide this video in probably two different parts. The first one is gonna be what is enrichment and some things you might be interested in concerning this possibility, and after, which tanks are worth enriching, which is gonna be the main part of the video. So first thing first, what is the enrichment? For example, let me take, the first one coming, the KV1S. If I take my KV1S in the shop right there, in the tech tree, you will not see it yellow like me, because for you it's not going to be enriched. But still, when you click on it, I'm going to do that with a tank that is not enriched. That's going to be easier for you to understand. So when I go on the tank, as you can see here, I have the enrichment section, and I can click. I have the temporary, which is gonna last for 14 days. So during 14 days, your tank is gonna be a premium, and after, it's gonna come back to normal, a regular tech tree, so it's not gonna make a lot of money anymore. Or you can go for the permanent icon. If you go for the permanent icon, it's a little bit higher in terms of gold what you have to pay, but at least the tank will be a premium tank overall all the time. That's the first thing to understand concerning enrichment. How do I enrich tanks? Now, something that is extremely important to understand on enrichment: even if your tank is enriched and therefore becomes a premium, it's still gonna do less money than a regular premium. If I take my Lttb and my KV1S and I do the exact same game, the Lttb will make more credits because it was already a premium when it was implemented in the game. Because enrichment allows you to make more money with your tank, but not as much as buying a regular premium tank. And I don't know why, because to me, most of the time, enriching tanks is gonna cost you a lot more than actually buying premium tanks, so I don't understand why Wargaming doesn't increase the credit coefficient of these tanks once they are enriched, but that's a subject for another video. That's the second point. And finally, one thing important as well concerning the enrichment, probably the fact that it costs a lot. That's why you should get them only when there is a discount, such as it's the case for now, and that's probably why I'm doing the video. So now that we talked about the enrichment in details, we can go on the main subject of the video: which tanks are worth enriching. Because if I show you real quick my tech tree, I enriched a lot of tanks because I'm going through Amazon App Store, not Apple Store, and when I buy gold, it's cheaper for me. I mean, for example, I have 60,000 gold for around 90 euros. So yeah, it's truly worth it for me to enrich because it's gonna cost me less than a regular premium. That's why I spent a lot. I spent a lot actually on this event running now, just to get mainly all the tanks I love enriched. But yeah, I have a lot of tanks enriched, but not all of them are worth enriching. And I don't want you to watch my streams and think, hey, you know what? Pantoufleee enriched all these tanks, it must mean that all these tanks are good, so I should enrich all of them. No, that's bullshit. That's not how it works. So I would rather do a video. So, we're gonna go from USA to the European tech tree, and I'm gonna tell you which one are worth it and why. The first one we're gonna start with is the T1 Heavy. You all know why this tank is on the list. This tank is completely broken in terms of armor, gun, everything at tier 5. If you really wanna have fun seal clubbing without fearing... I mean, it's the perfect seal club tank for everybody that has bad stats, at least, because it's a tank that is gonna allow you to do a lot of mistakes due to its impressive frontal armor, 140mm, which is a lot for a tier 5. So yeah, overall, I would say it's an extremely worthy tank in order for you to destroy everything at tier 5, and you're gonna make a lot of credits because, of course, if you play a tank well, you're gonna make good games, and if you make good games, you're gonna make a lot of credits. That's the first one of the list. Next, maybe for experienced player only, build the Hellcat, and you all know why this tank is here. The Hellcat is simply an amazing tank destroyer at tier 6. You have a great gun, you have a great mobility, you have a fully traversable turret, which makes it quite interesting in terms of gameplay and originality. But the main difference between the T1 Heavy, for example, and the Hellcat is probably that the Hellcat doesn't have any armor, therefore it's gonna punish you for every single mistake you make. And all tanks that punish you for a single mistake you make are tanks for high-skilled player. So the Hellcat can be a good idea for you if you're a high-skilled player and you're looking for a tank with a good gun and a great mobility. Now, Jackson, no. If you have the Hellcat, you don't need to enrich the Jackson. But yeah, T25AT now. T25AT, I just discovered this tank yesterday. I bought it and oh boy, is it a freaking amazing one. The armor profile is completely broken when you're playing against tier 7s. Therefore, you can play it extremely aggressively and it really feels like a T28, but with actual mobility. With mine, I go around 45 to 50 kilometers per hour with an amazing gun, 310 alpha damage for 6.8 seconds of reload. You have everything. You have the mobility, you have the great gun, and you have a great armor. Overall, with the T25AT, which became one of my favorite tier 7s of all time, you're gonna destroy every single one of your targets quite easily. Now, T32 no, M41 Bulldog no, T71 no, but T49 boys, T49, you all know why it's here, just for the derp. And also, as you're playing a lot of HE shells, and HE shells are premium on the T49, if you enrich it, you're gonna make credits and you're not gonna lose money while spamming the HE. It can be a good idea for people that really love the T49, but every time you play it, you're losing credits. If you play it with an enriched thing, if you enrich it, you will probably make enough money to be able to spam HE all the time, and just for that, it could be a good idea to enrich it if you're a T49 lover, of course. Now, let's talk about the Germans. It's gonna take a little bit more time here because we have several tanks to talk about. First one I want to talk about is probably the RHM. I know most of you are probably gonna disagree with this, but I think the RHM is quite broken. You have a tier 10 gun, you have an amazing camo rating. It's the perfect tank to enrich if you're a camper. Let's face it, if you're a camper and you don't have too much skill, but at least you know where to go with your RHM to snipe everybody, you should enrich it because you're gonna make great profit out of that. Because every time you shoot with this gun, as you're enriched, and the more damage you do per shot, the more credits you're gonna make. If you manage to penetrate all your shells without touching any hit shells and just regular AP, you're gonna make a lot of credits with the RHM, so it's worth it. Now, maybe something interesting, and I'm gonna tell you why the Stuck 3G, not because the tank is good, but simply because it has 183% credit coefficient while enriched. That's the biggest credit coefficient, and that's probably the only enriched tank that will make as much money as the Shinukai, for example, nearby. It's nearly the same as the Shinukai, but it's gonna cost you 100 euros less. So yeah, overall, it's a good idea. Now, the Yak Panther 4, is it worth it when we have the Hellcat? I don't think so, but for those of you interested, the Yak Panther 4 has this amazing gun that has one of the best, if not the best, DPM at tier 6 with more than 3.2k average DPM. And yeah, it's a broken one. If you know how to play the Yak Panther 4, it can be a good idea to enrich it just because of this amazing gun you have, and also a good mobility. But just be careful about the armor because you don't have any and your engine is located at the front. Therefore, every time someone is gonna shoot you, they're gonna break the engine. Now, let's talk about the Yak Panther. You already have the T25AT and the Yak Panther, so you have to make a choice. It's either the Yak Panther or the T25AT. If I was you, I would probably go for the T25AT because I feel like it has the same armor but for a better mobility, but it's all up to you. The Yak Panther is in this list for the same reasons as the T25AT that we talked before. You have an amazing gun, an amazing armor, and a good mobility. Now, let's talk about my lover of all time, the Yak Panther 2. This tank is simply a beast. I love that tank. It was my first enriched tank ever and I don't regret it at all. Tier 10 gun, amazing reload, amazing armor on the top of the armor. If you know all the positions where the Yak Panther 2 is effective, for example, every heals and stuff that will hide your lower part and only expose the strongest, which is the gun. you should enrich it. You're gonna make a shit ton of credits. So now we need to talk about VK3101H, Tiger 1 and Tiger 2. I'm gonna take them all three at once because they share the same playstyle. They're all here because they have two things in common: an amazing gun and an amazing armor. The VK3601H is gonna allow you to make a lot of mistakes without being punished, so it's good for new players maybe to enrich it. The Tiger 1 is a little bit more complicated because even if they buffed the armor, some tanks can still penetrate you, especially at tier 8. So I would say for average and advanced player, enriching the Tiger 1 could be a good idea. And the Tiger 2, everybody, because this tank profile armor is now broken and everybody should have a Tiger 2 in their garage. Now, Panther, not really. I don't think it's worth it. RU251, not worth it as well because you have the, how is it called, the bulldog, the German bulldog, which is better in terms of credit, so you don't need to enrich it. Let's talk about the Russians. So for the Russians, you don't really need to enrich both SU-152 and ISU-152. You can choose. I went for both because I love derpy guns, and yeah, even if the SU-152 is not worth enriching because it's all RNG based. Sometimes you're gonna hit shots you never thought you would, and sometimes you're gonna miss shots you never thought you would. So it's all up to you. The tank is really troll, but yeah, I just, it's a derp gun. That's pretty much why I enriched the SU-152, but nothing really exciting about enriching this tank. I don't think it's worth it. Now the ISU-152, you all know why it's here. Soviet bias, you're gonna have amazing shots just because it has a 640 alpha damage. But if you have to choose between the RHM and the ISU-152, you should go for the RHM because you have a better camo values and the fully rotative turret. So yeah, I don't think both of them are worth it. Here, maybe we can talk a little bit about the LTTB. Maybe LTTB here is worth it because it feels like a Dracula. For everybody that doesn't have the Dracula, the LTTB is a good alternative to enrich because you're gonna make a lot of credits and you're also gonna have a little bit more armor than the Dracula for the same exact speed and traverse speed. So it can be a good idea to enrich the LTTB. And just a quick tip: you should play it with the second gun and not the last one because they have pretty similar stats, but the main difference is that this one has better gun depression, which is, let's face it, clearly important when you're playing the LTTB. You need that gun depression, so you would rather lose a little bit of DPM but gain some degrees of gun depression. Now, KV1 is clearly not worth it as we have the Thunder. IS not worth it as we have every copy paste of any tanks. IS-3 not worth it because it got power creeped. KV2 not worth it even if it's a dirt gun because most of the time you're not gonna lose money playing it. Let's talk about the English now. British, sorry, because if I say English, I'm gonna upset a lot of people. It's simple. I went for the Charioteer because it was broken in the past. Now, do I think it's still worth it? Yes, but only for high-skilled player and really high-skilled player. I'm talking about 3k WN8 and more. If you don't have more, let's say if you don't have more than 2k average damage, Charioteer is not for you to enrich. Now, Comet, you all know why the Comet is here. It's a good alternative to Rudy, to everything like that. You have a really great DPM, the best DPM at tier 7, that's why it's on the list. You know, the more DPM you have, the more damage you do, the more damage you do, the more credits you're gonna make. That's why the Comet is here. It also is quite versatile because you have this amazing gun depression and a really great mobility. It's one of the best mediums of all time at tier 7, that's why it's on the list. And to compare it with something not comparable with, the Black Prince also is a good thing because you have an amazing armor and the gun feels like the same you have on the E25. You have 3k damage per minute, which is the best damage per minute for a heavy tank at tier 7 if I remember correctly. 3.1 second of reload. And it can be a good thing to add this tank into your enrichment tank collection if you're not a good player, just for the fact that it has a lot of armor, therefore it's gonna allow you to do mistakes. Every time a tank is allowing you to do mistakes, you know what it means. It means that you can enrich it. For the Japanese, the only one I enriched is the Shito SPG because the armor profile at the moment is broken. This tank has everything except the mobility. Mobility is not good, but you have an amazing armor and an amazing gun with an amazing penetration. Therefore, you will not be forced to use any kind of premium shells most of the time, even if you face tier 8s. But I would not enrich it for now, guys. Wait 1 1 or 2 updates for the Shito SPG, because we all know the armor profile is broken and we don't know yet if Wargaming intend to nerf it or not, so wait for it. Because, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you something about enrichment. The tanks, even if you enrich it, there are... If Wargaming touch the tank, it's gonna affect your tank enriched. Just because you enriched a tank doesn't mean you will be able to keep it the way you have it before a nerf or a buff. So they got impacted by that. So now, let's go for the Chinese tech tree. What do we have to talk about here? I don't think there is any tanks worth it to enrich. No, clearly in the Chinese tech tree there is nothing interesting, because T-34-1 and T-34-2, it's just the T-34-3 reskin, so you can have the T-34-3, which is going to make more credits. IS-2 not worth it because we have the Pravda. WZ, maybe the WZ-110 can be a good thing for good players, because it's an extremely versatile tank. It has this versatile playstyle that will allow you to play it both as a aggressive heavy tank and also as a medium tank, so it can be a good thing if you know how to deal with the lack of gun depression, because having only 6 degrees of gun depression on a tank that is quite high is going to be a struggle most of the time. So overall, yeah, for the Chinese, maybe I will go for the WZ-110, but if you're skilled only. Now let's talk a little bit about France. I enriched BDR, IRL and AMX 5100. AMX 5100 is not worth it because you already have the low range running, which is a better AMX 5100 overall. But the ARL 44, boys, this tank is one of the best tier 6 ever, as well as the Cromwell B, etc. You have this huge armor on the front, on the hull mainly, and people tend to shoot more your hull than your actual turret, which is your weak spot on this tank. But yeah, you have everything. You have a good gun, you have a good mobility and a good armor. So yeah, the ARL 44 is worth enriching, because I don't think that at tier 6 we have any tanks that feels like the ARL 44 playstyle. If we have, I apologize because I don't remember it. But yeah, the ARL is really worth it. And I would go for the BDR also. Why? Because it's just a regular ARL, but at tier 5. Of course, if you already enrich the ARL, you don't need to enrich the BDR. But if you want to enrich permanently a tank cheaper, you should go for the BDR, because this update, the tank got severely buff in terms of frontal armor. It really became a beast, a bunker. So it's worth it. It's a good alternative to the ARL if you don't have enough money. And I don't think that on this one I enriched anything. Yeah, I didn't enrich anything on the European tech tree, simply because I wanted to enrich P44 Pantera at first, but it's not worth it, as we have the Progetto 46 running, and the Progetto is overall better in every single thing the P44 Pantera does. So overall, yeah, that's it for my list of tanks to enrich. Hope you enjoyed, hope it will help you. Just a reminder that overall enriching is not worth it. You should go for premium tanks instead, but if you have some money to spend and you didn't know how to do it, it can be a good idea for you to enrich your favorite tanks. See you soon for a new video, maybe on the Cromwell B. I should review the Cromwell B because I receive a lot of DMs on that, but I'm gonna see maybe in the afternoon. Thank you all for following this video. I know it was a lot of me talking and not me playing because it was the subject of the video, but thank you all for joining and see you soon.